Discover the miraculous truth of God, 7 incredible revelations that transform faith forever. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the people of Israel groaned under the weight of their bondage in Egypt. Their cries for deliverance arose like smoke in the air, mingling with the cries of the newborns. Yet in the midst of darkness, the Lord's hand was at work, intertwining the fates of a reluctant shepherd named Moses and a suffering nation. Moses, raised in Pharaoh's household, bore a heavy burden of identity, wrestling between his Hebrew roots and the Egyptian royal upbringing. One fateful day, as he wandered in the desolate wilderness, the sight of a bush glowing with divine fire captured his attention. As he approached, the voice of Yahweh reverberated through the air, an echo of ancient authority commanding him, "Moses, take off your sandals, for you are on holy ground." The sphere of the sacred pierced his heart. It was not merely a call to return, but a summons to freedom for his people. The trembling Moses protested, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" His doubts hung in the air, heavy as the chains that bound the Israelites. Despite his reservations, divine purpose pressed upon him relentlessly. As he returned to Egypt, the weight of his people's suffering bore heavily on his shoulders, igniting a flicker of hope amidst despair. He entered the grand hall of Pharaoh, firm in conviction, declaring, "Let my people go." Laughter boomed through the chambers as Pharaoh sat, enshrined in arrogance, the heart of a tyrant. "Who is this Yahweh?" he mocked. The clash was inevitable, a divine confrontation on the horizon. With each encounter, plagues fell upon the land, waters turned to blood, frogs swarmed, and darkness enveloped Egypt, a testament to the Almighty's power. Each manifestation staggered Pharaoh's confidence, yet his heart grew harder, a battle of wills unfolding. The Israelites, too, wavered. Hushed whispers of doubt drifted upon the wind, asking if God's promise would indeed deliver them. Would our cries be heeded? Are we forsaken in our plight? Yet, amidst the gloom, hope flickered. Then came the command of the Passover, an extraordinary act that wrapped families in faith. They marked their doorposts with the blood of an unblemished lamb, a divine sign of protection. That night would be pivotal, yet the weight of uncertainty loomed heavy as families gathered, their hearts racing with trepidation and trust. They could almost feel the echo of their liberation stirring in the shadows. That fateful night, the angel of death swept through Egypt, and the wails of the bereaved pierced the silence like arrows. But the Israelites, clinging to the promise, stood safe under the shelter of the divine blood. As dawn broke, Pharaoh summoned Moses, his voice sharp with desperation, "Leave. Take your people and go." The silence of their suffering shattered. Yet just as freedom beckoned, the waters of the Red Sea blocked their path, an insurmountable barrier to the promise of deliverance. Moses raised his staff, obediently following God's command. The waters parted, creating a miraculous path, but with uncertainty clinging to their hearts, the Israelites hesitated. Would they trust the God who called them out of slavery? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As they stepped into the unknown, hearts pounding, each step taken was a step of faith, with every footfall on the sandy seabed, a testament not just of liberation, but of the journey into God's promises. A new beginning lay ahead, yet the question lingered, would their trust carry them through the trials that awaited beyond the sea? As the Israelites stood at the edge of the parted waters, an air of trepidation surrounded them. The towering walls of water surged to the sides, a miraculous display of God's might, yet fear hovered like a shadow over their hearts. Who would venture first into the unknown? Moses, feeling the weight of their gaze, lifted his staff once more, and with a resolute voice he called out, "Fear not. The Lord your God goes before you, he will fight for you." His words hung in the air, echoing with divine authority, instilling courage just as the Lord had promised. One by one, emboldened by faith and the unyielding Spirit of God, families took their first steps forward, dipping their toes into the coolness of the sea. They descended into the channel carved by the hand of God, the waters encased them in a divine embrace, as if guarding each step, shielding them from the devastation of the Egyptian army that pursued relentlessly behind. The sound of thunderous hooves and war cries shattered the dawn's peace, but their hearts ignited with the promise of deliverance. The path stretched long before them, glistening as sunlight danced upon the walls of water, a radiant display of divine light guiding them. Yet doubt whispered in the hearts of some, "What if we perish here? What if this is a cruel trick?" But just then, they heard a cry of faith from an elder standing firm among them, "Trust in the Lord. He has led us thus far." And with renewed spirit, they pressed onward, leaving the land of oppression behind, the cries of their ancestors urging them onward toward salvation. The last of the Israelites crossed the threshold onto dry land, and as they turned to witness the formation of their escape, they beheld a magnificent sight. Just as Moses had lifted his staff once more, the waters of the Red Sea began to tremble, as if responding to the command of its creator. With a crashing roar, the waters surged, returning in a deluge upon the army of Pharaoh, who had followed recklessly into the depths of pursuit. The chariots of Egypt and their soldiers were swept away into the depths, their cries swallowed by the fury of the returning waves. The Israelites watched in awe, a hallowed silence enveloping them as the reality of their freedom set in. They lifted their voices in unison, praising God with timbre that resonated through the heavens. "I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously, the horse and rider he has thrown into the sea." In that moment, their collective fear morphed into jubilation, as joy and relief cascaded over them like the waves had moments before. They danced before their Maker, giving thanks to the one who delivered them from captivity, and Moses led them in a song of praise, recounting the mighty deeds of the Lord. But as the echoes of their song resounded against the mountains, a sense of solemnity lingered, for the journey ahead was fraught with challenge. Would they trust in the Lord's provision in the wilderness? Would their faith remain strong against the trials they would face? As the sun dipped below the horizon, a holy silence fell upon the camp, and within their hearts, a divine mystery began to unfold, for the Lord had plans to reveal his covenant promises not only through liberation but also through lessons of faith that would shape a nation set apart for his glory. Thus, as they gazed into the starry expanse above, a question arose in the depths of their hearts: what would God ask of them as they walked the path of destiny designed by the Almighty? Then Moses led the people to the wilderness of Shur. For 3 days they journeyed into the desert, but found no water. Parched and weary, the hearts of the Israelites grew heavy with doubt. In their desperation, they murmured against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" And Moses, their leader and prophet, cried out to the Lord, seeking guidance amidst their despair. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Go forth and throw this tree into the bitter waters." So Moses took the tree, as God commanded, and cast it into the waters of Marah. Instantly, the bitter waters were made sweet. The people marveled and quenched their thirst, and their spirits revived as they drank, for the Lord had provided for them yet again, and the Lord made a statute and an ordinance for them there. He tested them, saying, "If you will diligently listen to the voice of the Lord your God and do what is right in his eyes, and give ear to his commandments and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you that I brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord, your healer." Exodus 15 verse 26. Filled with gratitude, the Israelites moved from Marah to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees. They camped there by the waters, their hearts filled with praise. Yet amidst their rejoicing, the lessons of trust still loomed. They could hear the soft whispers of uncertainty, the fears clawing at their hearts. As they journeyed from Elim, the people found themselves in the wilderness of Sin, where they faced a dire need for sustenance. Again, their voices rose, grumbling against Moses and Aaron, saying, "Oh, that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat and ate bread to the full. For you have brought us into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not. Exodus 16 verse 4, In the cool of the morning, when the dew lifted, a fine, flaky substance like frost upon the ground appeared. The Israelite men and women gazed curiously at the strange matter, asking one another, What is it? For it was unlike anything they had seen before. Moses explained, This is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. With grateful hearts, they gathered this substance, now known as manna, and tasted it. The sweetness filled their mouths, sustenance provided by their ever-faithful God, but amid the bounty, God's instructions echoed still, Gather of it every morning, but do not keep any till the morning, for he sought to teach them entire dependence upon his daily provision. Would they trust in his promise to sustain them day by day, or would they hoard what he generously supplied? As they settled into their new rhythm of life, a profound realization settled upon the camp. It was a call to deeper faith and surrender, a reminder that the God who set them free also intended to teach them to walk in his ways, and so, the nation of Israel, thrumming with anticipation of God's lessons, contemplated their future. Would their faith deepen, or would they falter amidst trials? Just as the sun began to set against the horizon, casting long shadows, a whisper of divine purpose lingered in the air, beckoning them forward into the unknown. What would God reveal next as he forged his covenant people through the fire of wilderness trials? And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness, saying, If only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if only we had perished in this wilderness. Their hearts were heavy with the weight of their hunger, and they spoke as if they had forgotten the miracles the Lord had worked before their eyes. Then the Lord spoke again to Moses, saying, I have heard the complaints of the children of Israel. Say to them, At twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread, and you shall know that I am the Lord your God. Exodus 16 verse 12, As evening approached, a great flock of quail covered the camp, filling the air with their rustling wings. The people were astonished and rushed to gather the birds. They marveled at the provision God had made for them, knowing that the Lord of hosts had sent this gift from the heavens. When morning came, the dew lay on the ground, and with the sun's ascent, the sweet manna appeared again. It covered the ground like a blanket of white, glistening in the light. The children of Israel awoke to behold this daily provision. They gathered it in abundance according to their needs, for God had instructed them to take what was sufficient for each day, but as some of the people disobeyed and kept portions until the next morning, it became foul, filled with maggots, and had a stench. The lesson remained unheeded, for it was a test the Lord desired their obedience, yet their hearts were still ensnared by doubt. Moses heard the murmurs of the people, he sensed their struggles. He stood before them and declared, This is what the Lord has commanded, let no one leave any of it till morning. And yet, there were some who did not heed his words. Then the Lord spoke to Moses again, saying, 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, there will be none. Exodus 16 verse 26, the cutoff would not merely be a day of rest, but a day to honor God and to remember his wondrous works. It was a holy invitation to salvation through trust and obedience. On the sixth day, the people gathered twice the amount of manna, and seeing this, Moses explained the command of the Lord. Tomorrow is a Sabbath of rest, a holy day to the Lord. Bake what you will bake today, and boil what you will boil, and lay up for yourselves all that remains, to be kept until morning. Yet some went out to gather on the Sabbath, and they found none. The Lord said to Moses, How long will you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? Exodus 16 verse 28, he reminded them again of the necessity of faith, that they must trust him to provide, not only for their physical needs but for their spiritual journey. Even in their stubbornness, his love extended toward them. Each morning brought fresh provision, yet, each day was a chance for deeper faith. The longing for Egypt still echoed in their hearts, but the Lord's promise was real. He desired to fulfill his covenant through their wandering. Thus the people of Israel continued in their journey, witnessing the goodness of the Lord, yet their hearts still yearned for more than mere bread and quail. They longed for the knowledge of his ways and the depths of his mercy. As the camp settled into a rhythm of reliance on God's provision, an undeniable question hovered in the air: what would happen when they entered the land he had promised? The Lord's hand was stirring, and a greater revelation awaited them, one that would change their understanding forever. Would they be ready to understand the depth of God's covenant love when He brought them to the promised land? And it came to pass that the children of Israel continued their journey through the wilderness, waking each day to the provision of bread from heaven, yet their hearts remained restless. They gathered fresh manna each morning, but their souls cried out for clarity, for understanding of the ways of the Lord. The sounds of their discontent echoed through the camp, as some would reminisce about the delicacies of Egypt, craving what they had known, not realizing the blessing that lay before them. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, I shall bring forth water from the rock. Exodus 17 verse 6, with these words, He aimed to remind His people of His power and grace. And Moses, in obedience, took his staff and went to the rock at Horeb. As the elders of Israel stood before him, their eyes filled with expectation and strife. Are we to die of thirst in this wilderness? They cried out in their disbelief. Their arguments were laced with bitterness, a reflection of their despondency, as they questioned the Lord's care. Yet Moses, guided by the Spirit, struck the rock with his staff, and from it flowed water abundantly, quenching the thirst of the multitude. Streams burst forth in the dry land, and they drank, marveling at the miracle of the Lord. In that moment of grace, the Lord commanded Moses, Name this place Massah and Meribah, because of the contention of the children of Israel and because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord among us or not? Exodus 17 verse 7, this was a significant moment, for it unveiled a truth profound. The Lord was present amidst their troubles, even when their faith wavered. As their thirst was quenched, yet another challenge arose. The Amalekites came against them, fierce and relentless, seeking to strike fear into their hearts. Moses, sensing the gravity of the moment, instructed Joshua, Choose men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. Exodus 17 verse 9, with determination, Joshua gathered the fighters, and they set forth into battle. Moses ascended the hill, and as he raised the staff of God, Israel gained the upper hand. But as his hands grew heavy, the tide turned, and Amalek pressed in. Thus Aaron and Hur came beside him, supporting his weary arms until the sun set. The battle raged below, but the Lord's power prevailed through the faith of a leader upheld by his brethren. When the dust settled, a great victory was claimed that day. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Write this as a memorial in a book and recount it in the hearing of Joshua, that I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Exodus 17 verse 14, the children of Israel would remember this day, a testament of God's faithfulness, a reminder that in their struggles, He had given them victory, and as they continued in this vast wilderness, Moses found himself meditating on the ways of the Lord, for he understood that each miraculous provision was not merely for survival, but for their faith to thrive. The wilderness journey was not just a path through barren lands, but a divine pilgrimage designed to reveal their hearts, to teach them reliance on Him who called them. Yet, a stirring in Moses' heart led him to ponder deeper still, what awaited them in the promised land. Would their experience of His miraculous works and unfailing love transform them into a holy nation, fully devoted to Him? Or would they falter as they had in the wilderness, failing to grasp the profound significance of God's promises? As the camp settled once more in the evening light, a holy anticipation filled the air, a whisper of what was yet to come, an unfolding revelation that could transform their understanding of God's covenant with His people. The time was drawing near when they would cross into the land flowing with milk and honey, and the true depth of His covenant love would soon be revealed. And it came to pass, as they journeyed further, that the Lord spoke again to Moses, saying, Gather the people together, that I may speak to them. Exodus 19 verse 3, a heaviness of purpose filled Moses' heart, for he knew the weight of the words that the Lord would utter. He summoned the elders, and they stood before him, trembling with a mix of anticipation and fear. The air crackled with divine presence as the Lord descended upon Mount Sinai in fire, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. A thick cloud of darkness enveloped the peak, surrounded by the sounds of thunder and the trumpet's blast. The people stood at a distance, gripped by awe and terror, for the glory of the Lord was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Do not be afraid, Moses called out to the people, for God has come to test you, and that His fear may be before you, so that you may not sin. Exodus 20 verse 20, as he spoke these words, the skies rumbled, and the voice of the Lord broke forth, revealing the commandments which would guide their lives and hearts. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Exodus 20 verse 2, his words pierced through the hearts of Israel, for it was a reminder of their deliverance, of his covenant fidelity. With each commandment declared, a sacred weight fell upon their understanding. These were not mere laws, but a divine structure for a people destined to know him intimately. The first commandment proclaimed, "You shall have no other gods before me." Exodus 20 verse 3, the people realized the call to exclusive devotion, a challenge to their wandering hearts. As they listened intently, Moses, filled with the Spirit, was consumed by a thirst for righteousness, understanding that this was their chance to be marked as a holy nation. Yet, even in the midst of this transcendent encounter, there lingered a holy fear. What if they failed? What if they turned again to their old ways, forgetting the God who had shown them such mighty acts? The clouds above shadowed Moses as he interceded for the people, pleading for their strength to uphold the covenant they had heard. The Lord continued, his voice thunderous yet tender, instilling courage, "And I will send my angel before you and bring you into the land." Exodus 23 verse 20, was this not the promise they had yearned for since their chains were broken? Each word filled them with new hope, yet the burden of responsibility weighed heavily upon their hearts. As the days stretched out in prayer and anticipation, Moses remained in the presence of the Almighty. There, in the sacred space, the Lord unveiled plans beyond their comprehension. "I will make a covenant with you before all your people. I will do marvels such as have not been done in all the earth." Exodus 34 verse 10, Moses returned to the people, his face glowing with the brilliance of the Lord. "This is a day of reconsecration, a new beginning," he declared. But the people remained unsure, their faith flickering as they contemplated the path ahead. Would they trust him enough to follow? In that moment of fervent contemplation, a whisper echoed in Moses' heart. What wondrous works awaited them in the land promised to their forefathers? Would they, in their struggle, rise to fulfill their divine purpose, or would they falter and lose the blessings prepared for them? And so it lingered, a divine mystery before them, a revelation of God's faithfulness beckoning, a question waiting to be answered. Would they truly follow the Lord with all their hearts and souls, or would they turn aside? And Moses spoke again to the people, his heart burdened yet resolute. "Hear, O Israel, the decrees and laws which I proclaim in your hearing today, that you may learn them and be careful to follow them." Deuteronomy 5 verse 1, the wind carried his voice, and the assembly strained to listen, each word an echo of commitment and covenant. "Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy," he began, the cadence of the command settling upon them like a gentle rain. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. Exodus 20 verses 8 to 10, a hush fell over the crowd as they considered the sacred rhythm offered to them. Rest in the presence of the Almighty. With each commandment issued, the gravity of divine expectation grew heavier in their hearts. "Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land." Exodus 20 verse 12, he continued, his voice imbued with a profound love that ceased not even amidst their worry. Would they honor their elders, those who had suffered alongside them in bondage? The tension in the air thickened as Moses pronounced, "You shall not murder." Exodus 20 verse 13, each breath hung suspended, and a silence retreated upon the assembly, for within them lived memories not yet healed, wounds too tender. They had been oppressed. Could they, in turn, shed that oppression as they entered the new land? "You shall not commit adultery," he pressed further, calling them away from past entanglements toward purity in heart and deed. Exodus 20 verse 14, as the words danced between the trembling souls, the essence of faithfulness lingered, making known the heart of their God who awaited them not only as a liberator but as a loving guide. With fervor he decreed, "You shall not steal." Exodus 20 verse 15, an enduring reminder that what was given would never flourish in the shadows of deceit. And as his voice rang out, hearts began to wrestle with their desires. The allure of possessions that had once bound them now surrendered to a call of righteous living. Finally, he declared, "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." Exodus 20 verse 16, the community listened, knowing that only in truth would they forge unbreakable bonds of unity. Each commandment was given not merely as rules, but as lifelines to a flourishing existence within a community anchored in love. Moses' eyes scanned the faces before him, from the inquisitive children to the aged men and women who had journeyed for years. "You shall not covet," he concluded, Exodus 20 verse 17, knowing too well the grasp of envy could tear at their souls and splinter their fellowship. In the midst of his proclamation, a cloud enveloped them again, the mountain vibrating with the might of God's presence. "Do not be afraid," Moses reassured them once more, "for God has been caring for you and you shall be his treasured possession." Yet, in their hearts, shadows danced. Would they stand united? Would fear give way to faith? As the people deliberated amongst themselves, a deeper question lurked: what transformation awaited them in the covenant? And what of those who might stray from its path, drawn away by the sirens of their own hearts? Then, the Lord spoke again to Moses within the depths of that sacred moment, revealing the next steps in his glorious design. "For I will cause all nations to see my wonders as they inhabit the land I have promised, a land flowing with milk and honey." A revelation hung heavy in the air, and Moses turned to the people, his heart pounding with the urgency of God's promise. Would they rise to embrace the unfolding purpose of the Almighty, or would their hearts falter amidst the treasures promised? Thus, a stirring mystery loomed ahead, beckoning them to trust more deeply in the unsearchable plans of their God. What miracles awaited them just beyond their choices? Then came the voice of the Lord, resounding like thunder from the mountain, enveloping the people in awe and reverence. "You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God." Exodus 20 verses 4-5, Moses stood firm, a channel of God's truth, for he knew that their hearts were prone to wander. The people shuddered as the gravity of this command pierced their minds. Would they turn to false images, forgetting the one who had delivered them? As the mountain shook and the smoke billowed, the people trembled, casting anxious glances among one another. "Therefore, you must not misuse the name of the Lord your God," Moses continued with a solemn urgency, "for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name." Exodus 20 verse 7, the weight of reverence hung heavily upon them, a stark reminder of the holiness of the one they followed. Whispers arose among the assembly, some asking, "How can we honor the Lord among the peoples of the land where we are going? Will they accept our God?" Yet, a stillness echoed back, urging them to remember. "You will remember that you were slaves in Egypt and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm." Deuteronomy 5 verse 15, Moses' heart swelled with the conviction of their shared history. "Keep these commands in your heart and teach them to your children." Deuteronomy 6 verse 6, he exhorted them with the urgency of a father imparting vital wisdom. The future depended on their faithfulness. The air grew thick with the spirit of revelation. He continued, "You must not divert from the commands of your God, but immerse yourselves in his laws. For your obedience will lead not only to your prosperity but to the glory of the Lord." But amidst the weighty promises and stern commands, doubt began to sprout in some minds. Will we indeed see his wonders? Will his favor rest upon us as we cross the Jordan? A hushed dread crept over the crowd, stifling the cries of hope. They thought of the giants that awaited them in the land, the fortified cities guarded fiercely by those who did not know the God of Israel. Yet, in the depths of Moses' spirit, encouragement sparked like flame. "Fear not. For the Lord your God goes with you, he will never leave you nor forsake you." Deuteronomy 31 verse 6, the thunder of his presence rumbling at the summit of the mountain bore witness to their fate, should they choose him. With each word Moses spoke, the fabric of their uncertainties began to unravel. "Do not harden your hearts as your ancestors did in the wilderness," he warned, "but rather embrace his commands as life itself." Hebrews 3 verse 15, the crowd melted into devotion, the weight of their past lifting as hope beckoned. As Moses finished speaking, silence enveloped the assembly, the Spirit of God moving over them like a comforting breeze. In that moment, a sudden fervent prayer burst forth from Moses' lips, "O Lord, make us a people of your name. Let us in your way into the land you have promised. For you are faithful to fulfill your word." And the Lord answered him, You shall see miracles of bread from heaven and water from flint. I will show the people my power, and nations shall tremble at my name. The promise echoed, a chilling invitation that drew their eyes to the horizon beyond their fears. What wonders lay in wait, just beyond their faithful surrender? What divine plan was winding itself through the fabric of their journey? Thus, the people stood on the precipice of the miraculous, their hearts drawn towards an unknown adventure, the fullness of God's sovereign story yet to unfold. The dawn broke upon the mountain, its rays piercing through the lingering clouds of glory. The people gathered, their hearts still wrapped in the promise bestowed upon them. Moses, standing tall, felt the weight of the moment heavy upon his shoulders. He raised his voice, and the echoes of the words of the Lord resounded once more, calling the assembly to attention. Listen, O Israel! You shall observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. Deuteronomy 5 verse 12. With this declaration, the people shifted restlessly, pondering its significance. Moses continued, speaking on the importance of resting on the seventh day, reminding them of their deliverance from bondage. You shall remember that you were a servant in the land of Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out from there with a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Deuteronomy 5 verse 15, a flicker of recognition ignited within the hearts of those listening. This rhythm of remembrance would sustain them. Urgency surged in Moses' spirit as he addressed their uncertainties again. Do not fear the giants that stand before you, for the Lord your God is a mighty warrior. He will fight for you. His words, imbued with divine authority, resonated deeply. The memory of their miraculous escape from Pharaoh's grasp echoed in their minds, a testament to God's unwavering faithfulness. Moses then spoke of the importance of honoring one's father and mother, emphasizing the promises attached to this command: long life and prosperity in the land. Honor your parents, for in this, you shall find the favor of the Lord, and your days shall be long. Exodus 20 verse 12, the children in the crowd, wide-eyed and listening intently, clung to each word, their hopes entwined in the narrative unfolding before them. But doubt still loomed, like clouds heavy with rain. One individual voiced the unspoken fears of the assembly: will our obedience lead to the promised land, or will it become a desolation at the hands of the fierce inhabitants? Moses, sensing the wavering faith among the people, did not flinch. Have I not spoken? The Lord your God is with you, and he will drive out the nations before you. He declared, trust in him, for you are his chosen people, a reflection of his glory. At this, a sound arose, like low thunder, from the multitude. A chorus of affirmation swelled among them. We will obey the Lord. We will trust. Moses, seeing their resolve rekindle, continued to speak about the commandments, each one a boundary of love that would protect and guide them. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal. Exodus 20 verses 13 to 15, the solemnity of each command painted a picture of community binding itself to the heart of God. The people stood as one. Though they were a multitude, they now felt united under a singular purpose. Your obedience forms a covenant with the Almighty, Moses cried out with fervor. Every law given to you fosters a relationship of trust and love with the Lord. Seek his heart, and he shall reveal his ways to you. As Moses spoke, the very ground trembled, not in fear, but in reverence to the sovereign God who had chosen them. The air crackled with divine expectancy, and the people united in prayer. Lord, let us walk in your statutes. Lead us into the land of promise. The fervent prayer echoed in harmony, their voices rising to the heavens. In that sacred moment, a whisper, a divine revelation invaded the atmosphere. In the days to come, I will raise up a prophet like you, Moses, from among your brethren. He will lead them not only into the physical land but into the fullness of my purpose. With this promise, the people bowed low, overwhelmed by the hope of what was to come. What wonders would this prophet reveal? What greater plan was intertwining their journey with the unfolding of salvation? Thus, with hearts aflame, they found their purpose anew, ready to embrace the unfolding mysteries of God's sovereign will. As the people of Israel settled into the spiritual rhythm established by the Lord, the air hummed with anticipation for what lay ahead. The echoes of the commandments resonated within their hearts, a divine call to righteousness and unity. Moses, standing before the congregation, felt the weight of the covenant upon him. Their faithfulness would determine the blessings of generations. One day, as they gathered at the foot of Mount Sinai, the Lord spoke to Moses with thunderous grace, declaring, "I shall bring forth not only your deliverance but a greater revelation of my glory." The people listened keenly, their hearts eager yet trembling with the knowledge of their past failures. Each word from the Almighty was like a balm to their wandering souls. "In the land flowing with milk and honey, I shall reveal my presence among you." Moses ascended the mountain once more, seeking clarity for the people. As he entered the divine cloud of his presence, the Lord bestowed upon him a new vision for the future. "Let them build a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them," the Almighty decreed. "Let the tabernacle be their holy place, where they can commune with me." With this, Moses' heart swelled with hope for a people poised to encounter the living God intimately. Descending the mountain, he hastened to relay the message, eyes alight with fervor. "The Lord desires to dwell among us. He has chosen us as his treasured possession." The Israelites responded with unified astonishment, their doubts momentarily quelled, encouraging one another in faith. The fear of their former slavery now felt but a shadow behind them, fading with each step into obedience. As plans unfolded for their new sanctuary, the community contributed generously. Each man and woman brought forth offerings: gold, silver, and rich textiles threaded with love towards the God who had delivered them. "Your gifts shall reflect the glory of the Lord," Moses declared, and a spirit of unity enveloped them, intertwining their hearts and hands in a common purpose. And yet, amidst this flourished devotion, a whisper of discontent lingered in the air. A faction arose among them, voices rising in rebellion, craving what was not theirs, drawn towards idol worship as memories of Egypt resurfaced. "Moses is gone, what will become of us?" they lamented. Distrust began to weave through their ranks, hearts once loyal were tempted to look back instead of forward, but the Lord, ever watchful, spoke to Moses. "Go down, for your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves." Exodus 32 verse 7. The gravity of rebellion set heavy on Moses' heart, yet he understood this was not the end, it was a call to intercede. Descending with tablets in hand, he found the people dancing around a golden calf, lost in idolatry. Anguish pierced his heart, and he cast the tablets to the ground, symbolic of the broken covenant. Yet in his despair, he fell before God, pleading for mercy on behalf of those who had strayed. "O Lord, remember your covenant," he cried. "Forgive their iniquity." The Almighty, with infinite compassion, responded to Moses' plea. Instead of destruction, the Lord renewed the covenant, a promise of mercy entwined with justice. "I will go with you," he reassured. "My presence shall guide you into the land I have sworn to give you." With renewed purpose, Moses returned to the people, proclaiming the grace of God that would carry them forward. As they journeyed forth, the tabernacle was erected, and the presence of the Lord manifested among them, ascending as a brilliant cloud by day and fire by night, an ever-present reminder of their holy calling. The people, humbled and grateful, walked in the fullness of their redemption, adopting the rhythms of trust and obedience woven into their daily lives. Each step of faith deepened their understanding of His character. Yahweh, their healer, provider, and deliverer. With joy in their hearts, they sang and celebrated the Lord's provision, and each day at dawn, fresh manna graced their tables, teaching them reliance upon God alone. They gathered, united as a community shaped by His love, their shared history resonating as echoes of grace reverberated within. As they approached the borders of the Promised Land, Moses gathered the congregation, and with a heart full of fervor and love, he declared, "Do not forget the Lord your God who has led you through the wilderness. For He desires relationship with you more than mere obedience." He conveyed the blessings that awaited them should they remain faithful to His commands, for obedience tied to love yields a harvest of righteous living. The journey through the wilderness had transformed them. They were a people now forged into a holy nation, recognized both by heaven and earth. Their testament would inspire countless generations to come, a reflection of faith, redemption, and renewal. Thus, they entered the land flowing with milk and honey, hand in hand, hearts united under the banner of the Almighty. The narrative of their trials and triumphs became a living testament to all who walk in faith, revealing that while they journeyed toward a physical promise, they simultaneously engaged in a sacred relationship with the living God. Now, dear friends, as you have journeyed with the Israelites through their transformations, I beckon you toward your own moments of revelation. Let this testament inspire you to seek the Lord fervently in your life, for the Savior's desire is that you too experience His unfathomable love. If you yearn for more stories of divine encounters and transformation, you need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Leave a like now to help spread His truth across the digital landscape and comment below your reflections. How has this biblical story impacted your faith journey? And don't wait even one more second. Share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear of God's unwavering promises and faithfulness. Let us together illuminate the path toward truth and grace, uniting our hearts as one body of Christ in pursuit of His glorious calling.